show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, crypto, Patreon, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Leland, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Good. I just got my hot tea and killing ants in the kitchen.
What is it with ants?
Summertime.
Why do they drive me crazy?
Food.
I mean, if a little crumb gets on the floor, there's like thousands of them.
They're waiting. Little Rambo.
Well, when I was in what we used to do in prison, if somebody was like, we didn't like somebody, or we found out some information about somebody that wasn't good, what we did was we take because upstate they had the Domino, they'd sell them in commissary, the sugar cubes. Take a sugar cube and we put it in their locker in the corner and forget it. All their food would be. They would get inside the freaking Drake's pound cakes. There would be thousands of ants inside the pound cake without it being open. Don't ask me how they got in.
Well, people in prison want to get out, but the ants know how to get in.
How come you didn't get my pun yesterday? I thought you'd get it.
Which one? Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't.
The yeast important one.
No, I heard that. I heard that. But they jumped out. You got your confirmation afterwards. I didn't want to come in and puff you up by raising you.
Puff? Yeast? Is that a pun?
No, raising. The yeast raises it up.
Yes, I heard that. I heard that show yesterday. I forgot what day it was from. Maybe it was from Tuesday. Didn't have a show Monday. We were talking about McToon. And my thing is this with him. I don't give a crap about him. They can believe what they want to believe. But more people are buying into their nonsense when it comes, nobody's taking a challenge. It looks like what Chocolate said. Like they got to stay relevant. They got to stay like they're in control, but they're really not in control. So I think what has to happen is we got to get them on a show with John and get this debate going. That's all.
No, it's never going to happen. Nothing has to happen. It's just fake news. They only have life in fake news. They'll never debate. They've already lost. These are not our people. They're here wasting our time, and we just need to be educational and keep putting out the material. These are people who will try to slow us down from that, to put our attention to their silly claims, which we overcome and killed already. How many times?
Yeah, it's been killed 10 times over, probably even more than that.
Right, so they're just wasting our time for us not to be educational, but keep coming back to them and their fake news. Well, we've already called it fake news. We've already destroyed it. They've even destroyed it. That latest video from McToon's talking about an elevation angle destroyed the whole thing. He destroys
That's
his own argument.
yeah, that's another thing too. They're not stupid. They know exactly what this means, but they can't let it go.
I don't know what drives each and every one of them. All I know is their arguments don't hold up, and we need to go bypass them altogether because we've already overcome all the silliness. They even argue against themselves.
I agree. I think I even said it on the show the other day. I think it's about time we ignore them. Don't even let Ruhif write his paragraphs. Let McToon say his challenge. Ignore them. Let's go after some. Let's get this out to people that want to hear it. And the best way is this show. This show is at the top.
That's why the educational aspect of it is key, and making it available as much as possible, sharing it. People are catching on.
Yesterday's show, I mean that was one of my favorites when I first heard Nathan break down affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. That I was like, wow, I learned that here on this show. I had no idea what the hell it meant before. With a lot of stuff, most everything, I knew nothing about. Knew nothing about fallacies, nothing at all. Knew nothing about science. My son used to tell me, Dad, science doesn't prove things, it disproves. I was like, oh, yeah, really. He used to tell me all these things way before Flat Earth. Now, to come to an understanding of it, it's like, wow. Does the world actually think like I did?
That statement is so ludicrous. If it disproves something, it also simultaneously proves something.
Yeah, exactly. But you're not thinking of it then.
Like a salesman mixing up words to fool you. That's these ballers, anti-flat earthers are. I mean, they want you to think that the earth is spinning, and because the earth is spinning, they have to account for this thing called Coriolis effect, which is a real effect if something's spinning. And but they don't want to go and venture, and it's always north to south, south to north. But what about when it's east to west and west to east, like the Charlotte plane flight? Well, they don't want to deal with that because it should take an hour and a half if the earth was actually spinning. But they don't mind talking to you about winds being deflected eastward or westward, north to south, because the earth is spinning. Well, fine. What if I'm on the plane coming towards LA and LA is coming towards me? You're telling me that shouldn't shorten the time? Oh, no. It doesn't work that way. Yeah, it does. If you're going to credit it for winds spinning in different directions, or north and south are only affected when the earth spins west to east, it's nonsense.
Yeah, that's how ludicrous it is that they would say, no, that's not how it works, because it's ludicrous to even think something like that. Now, I heard Nathan say, it was yesterday's show too, that he thinks that they might change Coriolis. I said this last year. I asked, do you think they make it, because this is so obvious, do you think that they might maybe try to add something to this to change it? And I was shot down. And now I hear,
Well, they can change it all they want. There's too much in print already saying what it was. And all they could claim is, well, we have a better understanding now, so it's not what we said it was, it's this. Either way,
right,
it's Earth spinning. So Charlotte flight has to be shorter.
they're going to rephrase it. I'm telling you, they're going to rephrase it in a way where it gets them out of it.
No, they already have rephrased it. They only want a north-south effect. They don't care about the east-west effect, because east-west effect kills the whole argument. If Earth was spinning, the east going west flight from Charlotte to LA would take an hour and a half. It doesn't. So Earth is not spinning. But no. But north-south, see the winds. Oh, you got it affecting winds, but the cause is Earth spinning. Well, if Earth is spinning and it affects winds, then it's going to affect the travel time. of an airplane coming towards LA as LA is going towards the airplane. This is not even a debate.
Yeah, you're right about that. It's not a debate. I mean, it's so glaring.
Look, I don't mind if the Earth is spinning. I would love to have Charlotte to LA take an hour and a half, and I'd be happy to accept it, but it doesn't.
What was that, Discord?
No, it was just me, Neil. I was just chuckling at Tim's comment. That was funny. You okay,
How's
guys?
the poetry coming along?
Pretty bad, mate. Might just have one there for you, actually.
Nothing
So
new?
I've got one for you. Hang on. It's just when I find it, that is. Oh, here it is. Got it here. Turn this fan off. Just let me get. Can you hear me okay, guys? Yeah.
No, great.
Yeah. So I've got this little. I've wrote one called "Misunderstood," and here it goes. I'm feeling misunderstood, and that's not good. People just don't get me. They never see the true me. They say I'm drifting and falling off track, but I don't see myself like that. My aim is to stay on the straight and narrow, forward thinking, never deviating. But in your mind and from your point of view, you think I'm actually drifting, and that's not true. It can be a lonely place in my reference frame of mind. People on the earth can be so unkind, observing and watching me as if they were blind. My name is Coriolis, and I'm misunderstood. People just don't get me, and that's not good. The end.
That's ace. Thank you very much.
I like that one.
Yes, I love the spin. I love the spin you put on that one. That's
yeah,
good.
the third person Coriolis talking.
Yeah, there's nobody that's going to miss your drift.
Yeah, but if he does that 3 times in a row, will he be winded?
I think we just deflected from how good the poem was.
It's funny though. It's funny. I was making myself laugh the other day because now and again things pop into my head about writing things down, and I was just driving in my van up the M6 motorway, thinking about tangent lines and the sextant as you do, and I was just jogging some words together in my head, thinking about things, and I had to I made myself laugh because I thought, am I going insane or what? Because I was thinking of some words for this sort of a little poem. And I was given the tangent line a personality and a voice, and the same with the sextant. And when I stopped, I wrote a few things down. I was trying this voice out for the tangent line, and I'm thinking, why am I giving this tangent line a voice, and why am I giving the sextant a voice? And I wonder if anybody else would come up with the same voice as I have. So, has anyone got a tangent line voice they'd like to share with me?
Negative. You're losing
Tangent
your mind.
line voice. I think a tangent line voice would be very prim, very proper, very well spoken, direct, no mucking about, no meandering or bending. Yeah, that's the kind of voice. It'd be kind of maybe a bit snooty. Well, yes.
I see it like a tangent line looking for the curve to meet.
Obviously, that you've got it. Maybe a bit of a cad, like Jagman. Yeah, so I'm looking for a curve to meet.
You was pretty spot on, actually, Nathan. That was. I've got it here. I'll read it for you. It's called "I'm a Tangent." Hello. I'm a tangent. I'm a straight line. I make tasks on the globe model work just fine. I'm a handy little line. Making the globe measurements work just fine. I have a partner in crime called Dingleberry. He just dangles underneath me, willy-nilly. Partners in crime, popping up the globe all of the time. But I'm a tangent line. I measure angles for globes. My job suits me fine. I measure the angles on top of curves. I get on globe believers' nerves. But I'm needed for the angle, you see, especially with the sextant when I'm out at sea. Well, my name's Sextant and I don't need you, Mr. Tangent and Dingleberry. What you gonna do? I've been out at sea, you see, measuring angles in physical reality. So, Mr. Tangent and Dingleberry, don't mess with me. Well, Mr. Sexton, don't take it out on me. It's the globe believers. They need us, you see. I don't care about the globe believers. My measuring is fine. You're just a pathetic, sad excuse of a line. And your mate Dingleberry is a globe-lying swine. I'm Mr. Sextant. I measure angles just fine. There you go.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. I don't know why I'm having trouble with the support mechanisms on my show today, but there we go. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the show, then simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by the Adam Meakin, Chocolate Saiyan, 10th Man, Neil, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Afternoon,
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah. Let's get it on.
Tangent line.
Hey, good morning.
Yes, I
Good
started
morning,
the
good morning.
I started the show right after your poem. So become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, as I've just plugged it in the intro terribly in both the pre-show and the live show. But there we go. Yeah, check it out. So we had one deck doing another one of his, well, two actually. Was it 2 or 3?
Two.
Two. Yeah, 2 poems that are new. So check it out if you're a member, or become a member if you're not. How are you all doing? Enthusiastic, I hope. Yeah,
It's Flat
yeah.
Thursday, innit?
enthusiastic. Good,
Yeah,
good.
let's do it.
Oh, that's brilliant. Really pleased to hear it. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? You know, formerly known as curve of the Earth?
Not anymore.
Since when? Did we have it in the first place?
The guys who used to claim it thought they had it, but their geometric horizon came from flat Earth elevation angles. So they didn't really have it, but you could think of it like they did.
Right, so you
They
could
don't
assert
adhere to that point of view.
Earth curve, but you'd have to accept and acknowledge in the modern times that claim has come from a flat Earth.
Well, apparently they want to distinguish between Earth curve and their geometric horizon. So, after a certain argument, we've been told we wouldn't expect to see the geometric horizon. So, I don't know why that would be, because something is obviously blocking the boats and buildings in the distance, and we were told that that's a physical Earth curve.
Chocolate, are you saying that since their geometric horizon changes with the weather, that something's wrong with that?
Yeah, the geometric part. Yeah.
What about any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle from a curved baseline?
I haven't seen it accomplished yet.
And when we asked Anik that, he said, well, you use the flat plane first. I don't know where you would get a flat plane from if we live on a sphere, but there you go, Globers.
That's right.
Well,
The
that was
Globers
part
are
of-
telling us, the flat earthers, that we need to get over the fact that we first need to measure Earth flat. That's what we're being told on this debate show. That's not even a joke. That's what we're being told by people who claim to be defending the globe. They're not. They don't defend the globe or believe in the globe. But aside from that, they're telling us that we need to get over the fact that we'll first be measuring Earth flat to then move forward to talk about how spherical it is. I kid you not.
Yeah, well, that's
Right.
what. Who was the guy that said that? I'll
Danik.
give you the flat Earth.
I'll give it you. I'll give you the flat
Yeah.
Earthers conspiracy cats a couple of years ago when he had the same exact problem when talking about the angle, i.e. the visual acuity in that instance, the resolution, the angular resolution is an angle. So he's got to give us the flat Earth first. That was conspiracy cats. More recently, it's more specific, as in to do with the sextant measuring angles when navigating and triangulating your location. And in that instance, well, you guys have just got to get over the fact that we measure it flat first. Us guys being flat earthers who are pointing out that Earth's got to be measured flat first. I've got to get over that. We've got to get over that, guys. I mean, seriously.
Can I propose
Well-
something?
Hold
Go
on
on,
a second before you do, because you have to get over that it's measured flat and then modeled flat. Then we can tell you about how it's a sphere.
Yeah, I'd like to
Right.
propose something that goes with what John just said. Let's assume something on a much smaller scale, like a basketball. Is it absolutely necessary to have a tangent plane on that ball that's in my hand in order to know the radius of that ball to the outer surface of that ball? Would I ever have to use a tangent plane ever if I'm holding a smaller version of the supposed globe in the shape of a basketball? What is the purpose of a tangent plane when I could just measure the radius to the surface of the ball?
Well, an elevation
It gives you-
angle requires
It
flat
gives you a
baseline.
dip angle.
You
It
don't
gives
have
you a
to.
dip
That's it.
angle.
Hold on, a dip angle to
Well,
what?
if you're holding a basketball, you could draw out a flat plane on top of that ball and use the angle from that to the geometric horizon of the basketball to figure out its radius.
Perfect. Correct. If you're on a basketball and it does actually have the properties of sphericity, then it will have a geometric horizon. A local geometric horizon from the position of an ant, for example, on the top of a basketball. As it looks away into the distance, there's a calculable value. Now, that same calculable value ascribed to the sphere Earth that we don't stand on is 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's the distance to the geometric horizon. The leading edge of the sphere obscuring your view into the distance, claimed to be calculable, i.e. how much it's blocking the Isle of Man or boats or buildings or whatever it is it's claimed to be blocking with its physicality. Well, that's something it must have. You don't wake up one day and find that the basketball isn't blocking things that are in the way of it. That's a physical impossibility. And by way of demonstration in the Black Swan, Earth claimed to have a physical leading edge to it is beyond the limitations of that leading edge, i.e. the hill that's supposed to be in the way, called Earth curve, is behind where it's supposed to be blocking. Not possible if it's a physical Earth curve that you can calculate how much it's blocked a boat by, when you globe believers say boats fall over the edge of Earth, which you do.
And is that not the horizon for them?
Yeah, their horizon is Earth curve, or it was until we pointed out that it's beyond the geometric limitations of their claim that it's a sphere edge at radius 3959 at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as per their curved maths sphere Earth curve edge claim at the horizon. So yes.
But it excludes terrestrial refraction, though.
The claim still holds true for a baller doing celestial navigation. The horizon is still the leading edge of a ball. That is the purpose in their explanation of the dip correction.
Sorry, I'm glad you've said it. Perfect timing. So John earlier was very quick to answer me in this regard. Sorry, dip correction to what? It will be the same answer if Earth is a sphere.
Dip correction to the reification that the horizon is the leading edge of a ball. That's the purported
not quite what
mathematics of
John's
why
answer
you're
was.
doing it.
Hold on. Sorry, Adam, to be pedantic. John, can you give the same answer you gave before for the question, but it's been put to Adam in regards to what the claim by an anti-flat earther is you will need in terms of the horizon and its properties if you're going to do a dip correction from it. What must it be for that to hold true?
Straight line.
John's disappeared right at the wrong moment. A geometric horizon. That would mean a tangent point. That's what it must
Correct.
be, right, Adam?
Yeah, correct. And in the later books of celestial navigation, that dip correction is ascribed as an adjustment to a physical geometric horizon. That's what you're lining up to.
Perfect. And is the horizon a physical geometric horizon, Adam? Just to
No.
answer Arwin's question.
No.
So no, upon Arwin's postulation that what about refraction? Is it a refracted horizon? Well, you can ascribe that word to it by way of a 7/6 derivation of an R value that you couldn't get if it wasn't physical to measure it, but ultimately it means it's then not geometric.
I want to challenge that. I've been pondering that. And it's a trap. If you allow refracted horizon, you are allowing the horizon still to be physical but moved. So you in arguing that, it's a tacit acceptance that it is physical, but you're saying it's being moved in some way.
Sorry, did I stutter?
You're still accepting
Sorry,
its
Mr. Baller,
original
Adam.
physical nature.
Check out Adam, who's suddenly learnt the rebuttal. Sorry, did I say physical? Or did I say geometric?
Well, both would be.
Well, both
Physical.
isn't just physical. If you were to ascribe it as being the geometric horizon moved into a non-physical, non-geometric physical position,
yeah.
Well, then it's not geometric anymore. That's the only point when you need a geometric horizon to do this correction from. And if you haven't got one, because it's refracted, then you haven't got one.
My point being that whole assumption is that the horizon is occurring at a place over there. It's not. It's a limitation within the lens. It doesn't occur ever in physicality ever. It doesn't exist. It's a point of optical dissolution. The only place it exists is in the lens.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Well, are you in a hurry? I think Chocolate was.
Chocolate was trying to say something. Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead, Chocolate.
No, that's all good. I was just going to say, Arwin did say terrestrial refraction, which in which case you're going to need a radius and an atmosphere. Do we have an atmosphere? Let alone a radius?
Oxymoron. You can't have sphere-shaped air. So any air, atmo, is going to behave like any other gas or mixture of gases. That is to say that it will fill the availability of volume it has to fill. To assert that air is sphere-shaped, atmo, sphere, sphere-shaped air, is absurd. It takes whatever shape of whatever volume it's got to fill. Gas or gases. No, we don't have sphere-shaped air.
Just on that, guys, before we move on, I don't know if it's an old video or a new one. It was on Instagram today, one of my Flat Earth buddies. Neil deGrasse Tyson is actually admitting that the horizon is not a physical edge curve. We know it's not, but he's actually stating it isn't. I don't know if you've seen that.
Is this new?
I think it's new. I had it on Instagram, and I immediately went to YouTube to try and find the.
Oh, right.
the
Excellent. I love a good Neil deGrasse Tyson magic trick. He's a very good wordsmith, and I admire that because he's typically quite careful with his words. Although that illusion that he's really good with his words sometimes gets shattered when you see the unedited clips of him talking. But that aside, the edited version, the illusionary version of Neil deGrasse Tyson and the spin they put on what he has to say about the heliocentric worldview often comes across as quite clever. Now, maybe that's someone else doing it, but I'll give you an example. When he talks about that stuff is flat, all the flat earthers rejoice. Oh, look, Neil deGrasse Tyson says it's flat. No. Again, it's describing the physical leading edge of a geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curve when he's describing you seeing it in reference to the ball he's holding and how an ant on the ball would have that representation given to him. So it's a very clever magic trick that duped a lot of flat earthers as well as the surface level understanding which you're supposed to get from that, which is just a vague general understanding of, look, here's us on a ball, you're moulding it, there's not much surface interpretation to it. But there's so many levels to that magic trick that, always intrigued to hear a new one from Neil deGrasse Tyson. So have you got any quotes? Hopefully I've babbled long enough for you to go out and dig exactly what it was out. Or maybe you've just been listening to my filler, not realising that it was filler. Who knows? We'll find out.
Real quick, though, a lot of people still say that, though. You'll hear a lot of flat earthers quote that, not even realizing that he's putting them right on the ball with them.
Yeah, he's saying you're not going to see the curve of the Earth from whatever, 2 inches above the beach ball, or 2 millimeters, or whatever he says. Doesn't matter. But he's talking about the ISS, right? Or something like that. Saying that even if you're at what is considered to be quite high by our vantage point, you're still not high enough to see Earth curve. And it's like, hang on a second. The leading edge of the sphere on a ball Earth is just the horizon. It doesn't matter at what altitude you see it. But again, another level to that particular magic trick. I don't want to distract one deck's gone very quiet. But maybe we'll find out there's a new multiple level magic trick that at the surface seems like good things for us, maybe.
Yeah, I'll try.
Technically, it was talking about the Felix Baumgartner.
I'll try and dig it out for you. It's just interesting to. He's almost talking like a flat earther. Well, he is. I'll dig it out.
Yeah, that's why it intrigues me for the reasons given a minute ago. Go on, Chocolate.
Oh, no, I was just saying he was actually talking about the Felix Baumgartner jump and how they showed the curve with the nice wide angle lens, and he said, nah, that's not what's going on. You can't see the curvature of the Earth 2 millimeters above this beach ball.
Right.
So, yeah.
But you simultaneously reifying the leading edge of the sphere into the horizon regardless of what you do. It's just saying you can't see it curving. It's like, but it is Earth curve. That's what the horizons claim to be. As I say, it's a very, very clever magic trick.
Yeah, the trick is that we'll never be able to. I'm sorry, I'm getting feedback.
No, go ahead.
That we'll never be able to see it, and that's where the curve is. That's the magic trick.
Yeah, it's beautiful double speak.
What happens when the high priest starts committing heresy, though?
Heretic!
If they're a priest, can you be found guilty? Can you be guilty of heresy if you're a high priest? I suppose you can. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you get held.
I don't know. With things, but going by past experience for us, if there's ever a nonsensical slip up in heliocentric descriptions from anybody of note, in our arena, I'm talking, everyone around them will just pat them on the back. It doesn't matter to the opponent, our opponent, that would be the globe earthers, that there's been a complete cock up and someone said something stupid that doesn't make sense. Individually, they all have no humility to admit when they're wrong, and collectively, they'll prop each other up and pat them on the back so long as they're battling a flat earther when they're wrong. That leads to the level of talking at cross purposes to the point where the sense of a conversation gets so lost that it loses all meaning and becomes more than just abstract. It becomes nonsensical. So if you picture, what's his name, Dr. Bob, is it Dr. Bob, and Brenda, and they're having a discussion about God knows what, and Brenda at some stage says, how did they know it? How did it know to be food? Or something like that. And this is after they've been patting each other on the back, telling each other how smart they both are. They waffle off into la-la land, talking across each other at cross purposes, while simultaneously patting each other on the back about how smart they are, whilst making absolutely no sense whatsoever in a conversation that they're having. And you just go, yeah, that's the general behaviour. So if that's the behaviour that we experience, or I can reference in this regard, I wouldn't imagine that any sort of slip-up from any level of priest, regardless if it's Neil deGrasse Tyson high priest level, would get corrected ever. It'd just be ignored. If anything, they'd congratulate them on a job well done and pick some random other factoid that wasn't the one they got wrong and tell them they did wonderfully on it. You know, that's my experience, at least, to answer that.
You know what's hilarious, though? These guys, they'll never call each other out. Like the anti-flat earthers and debaters, they'll never call each other out when each one might know the other one's wrong, but they'll never call them out. But they all feel obligated to call out their priests, like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like, they'll call them out all day, but they won't call each other out. It's hilarious. I mean, what level of heresy is that, where you can call out your priest, but you can't call out your fellow churchgoers? I mean, what the hell is that about?
Well, look at Danny Faulkner. He'll say right out, I do not agree with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
That's what I'm
saying.
saying.
High priest rebuking high priest.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, it's not an agree or disagree situation. The subject matter and what its definition is the key, not what someone trying to spin it to be.
Isn't that where they got the name anti-flat earther, though? Because they're, in that instance, certainly not in line with the globe claims, the globe religion, and its belief in things like Coriolis effect. They're throwing, I know which example you're giving, things like Mr. deGrasse Tyson talking about a field goal going through the goal because Earth's turned beneath the ball. So the goal's moved as the ball has travelled straight, but you've watched it from the stands curve through the goal. Well, according to him, that's because Earth moved underneath the ball, only an apparent deflection caused by Earth's rotation. That's what he's claiming. Well, when we point out that if Earth turns under the ball because the ball's left the ground, then a flight that's in the air for a prolonged period has a lot of Earth turning underneath it. Yeah, it might be a quarter of an inch for a ball that's in the air for 2 seconds, but for an aeroplane, that makes a significant difference to the flight time. Well, that doesn't happen. There is no significant difference to the flight time because Earth's turning beneath flights. And when we point that out to an anti-flat earther, they'll throw Neil deGrasse Tyson claiming that Earth should turn underneath a football, and has, according to him, under the bus, and say, nah, that's not what the globe claims. And then they'll make up some supplementary nonsense ad hoc crap that they've come up with on the spot for what they say the globe claims. Because in that example, no, that would shorten flight times, but Neil deGrasse Tyson's just wrong. All right. But you're right, and you now stand here before me with the belief, incorrectly so, that the Western world's behind you as you tell me about how stuff isn't drifting at 15 degrees an hour, Coriolis effect, that the globe claims. They'll argue the toss about how it ain't happening and why it isn't happening. And like I say, they'll, until now, if they're listening to this show, have had the vague belief that they were actually in line with the rest of the world and they were defending the globe. They weren't. And as Chocolate says, they were throwing some of the priests of the globe under the bus when they did so. So they certainly didn't have the Western world behind them. In fact, they were heretics, quite the contrary to what they've believed. And this will be pointed out. If everyone had come here, but the elevation angle seems to have killed most participation. It's like down to a dreg. But there we go. I'm not complaining.
Well, they seem to be selective in their Earth turning. They wanted to affect winds on the north, south, south, north, but they don't seem to understand that they also claim it's turning west to east. And if it's turning west to east, and it's got the ability to affect winds, as they say, which it doesn't, but that's high and low pressure systems on the Earth that they want to attribute to Earth spin. But assuming we go on with their silliness, then you're going to have a west to east or an east to west component of Earth spinning. And one would be shortened flight times, Charlotte to LA, hour and a half instead of 4.5. And the other would be the other direction, which you'd never reach your destination because Earth is spinning faster than the plane is flying. So they're doomed.
Well, they really got me when they started. Who was that, yesterday or the day before? The guys started to say, we don't expect, like, the amount of Coriolis deviation at the equator should be less than north or south. Like, that part is already like, dude, why are you claiming exactly the opposite of how it should be? Like, are you really that lost about it? Are they really that lost?
Well, it shows they don't even know what Coriolis is.
But they should have some, but they don't even know their globiolus anymore. Like, nothing. They just know, we know nothing. We don't understand anything. We know nothing. Like, you don't even understand your own false claims anymore, even those you don't understand.
But that's their own narrative's fault, right? Their narrative knows there's no Coriolis effect, right? I'm going to reify it into a person, right? It knows there's no Coriolis effect. That's why they tell you where it should be the greatest and the most noticeable at the equator, it doesn't exist there.
I've got to put a stop to this, Chocolate. No. Right. You're saying the Coriolis effect knows there's no Coriolis effect.
No. The narrative.
I heard the disclaimer. I've reified it into... No. Right. I heard the disclaimer.
Yeah.
Right. No. People do this. Anti-flat earthers do this because the claim is Coriolis effect. It's not the globe knows that the claim of Coriolis effect ain't really happening. People recognise that the globe's claim of Coriolis effect isn't happening. And then they defend why it isn't happening. It's got sod all to do with the claim. The claim is Coriolis effect. The globe's claim to have it, and it doesn't. That's the bottom line here. I was for so long trying to figure a way of concisely summarising it. There you go. There it was. Did it. Taken 4 years. The globe claims to have Coriolis effect, and it doesn't. There you go. Couldn't get any more concise. It's an effect. Something's supposed to be happening. It doesn't happen. There you go. Couldn't get any more concise.
Hey, it's funny how Chocolate gave it a personality, because on the pre-show, one that gave it a personality in a poem. Now that's synchronicity.
It's empathy getting the better of you guys. That's all this is, right? You want to take the burden off the perpetrator. It's the perpetrator who says Earth has no effect, you and your reference frames are ruined, and you want to absolve them of their cognition to do that by blaming the model and saying that the globe Earth model knows it hasn't got any Coriolis effect. Like, what the hell are you talking about? The globe Earth claims Coriolis effect. It doesn't have any. People realise it doesn't have any and then explain it away. Explain why it doesn't. Well, those people are heretics. And I'm not going to defend them. I'm just going to laugh at them and say, so you don't believe in Coriolis effect then? There's supposed to be some. You're not describing that. Oh, well, let's get into a wrangle-dangle about what Coriolis effect is for 25 minutes. I'm past that now. I definitely know what it is to the point where I'll shout and swear at people if they even dare tell me I don't know what it means. I do. So now I'll just laugh at the fact that the globe doesn't have this effect. The globe's claimed to have Coriolis effect, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a newbie, or you've been here for years, you're a flat earther or a concaver or whatever you are, you all know this word. Coriolis effect. Coriolis is a claim that the globe makes, and it doesn't happen. It's not happening. There isn't any Coriolis effect. Now, that's why I said last week, or however long ago it was, that I think there's got to be a change. Now, I'm pretty sure that Brian came up with this several years ago, and then Neil might have parroted it later, and I've refined it. But ultimately speaking, there's got to be something done about it. Like there had to be something done 107 years ago about the fact there wasn't any effect of gravity to experience in physicality. So then they took it into the pseudo-Riemannian four-space world of Einstein in a pseudo-geometry, a conceptual medium, and then talked about gravity there. Did the old, well, it's not that really. We know better now. Now we talk about it in the conceptual medium of space-time. So, nothing to test, nothing to see here, nothing to concern about you debunking. Maths is reality. That's what they did with gravity. Now we've got me, a flat earther, going, globe claims Coriolis effect. Doesn't happen. How do you think the silver bullet in response from someone like Simon Dan is going to fare when he fires, you and your reference frames are ruined? What? There's that little feather bounces off me. No, mate. Globe claims Coriolis. You're not paying attention? Globe claimed Coriolis. It doesn't happen. Don't show me things not drifting at 15 degrees an hour, you complete muppet. Show me them drifting at 15 degrees an hour like it's claimed to happen. Oh, what, it don't? Yeah, welcome to flat Earth.
Come a long way since Miley Cyrus on the pendulum.
Yeah, got to learn this shit inside out and back to front to be able to declare it in such concise terms. And it seems simple. The globe claims to have Coriolis effect and it doesn't. But you've got to understand it inside out, back to front, and argue all day long with anti-flat earthers telling you about why we won't see the effect, when really you've only got a 70% understanding of what the effect really is.
All right, so when I said I'm reifying the narrative into a person, right? I don't really have to reify it because we could just use an example like National Geographic, right? Who tells these guys, they'll go and pull up citations that tell them that the equator there's no Coriolis effect. But yeah, that's the claim, obviously, and obviously there is none. So that's the Globers really just okey-doking themselves. Right? I could see the National Geographic in the background, like, haha, look at this clown. He's pulling out a citation to show the Coriolis effect doesn't exist when actually the claim is that it actually does exist. It's great.
In that example, I was asked, why does my reference describe the Coriolis effect and then go on to describe how there is no Coriolis effect at the equator? And you're like, I don't care. The globe claims to have Coriolis effect, and you're digging out a citation that describes zero Coriolis effect at the equator. Like, I care. Yeah, so it's riddled with doublespeak, even in the descriptions that they give you from the globe. Yeah, it's an effect that you could study. It's an effect you can induce by watching something tossed over the top of a roundabout straight as you rotate beneath it. It's an easy effect to describe. It's an easy effect to observe. It's not an effect that the globe Earth is induced, though. We're not experiencing the effect as we stand on the ground. That doesn't happen. Globe Earth's not inducing a Coriolis effect. We haven't got one. The Coriolis effect in and of itself is real, and you, like I say, can really easily induce it just by watching something as you spin. As you're spinning around, stuff looks like it's moving when it isn't. Well, a ball tossed straight will look like it's curving when it isn't. That's all it is. Well, that doesn't happen. Nothing leaves the ground and seems to curve, and if it did, flights would be shortened, because Earth would be turning beneath them, and that definitely doesn't happen. So Earth is claimed to have Coriolis effect. It doesn't.
You said ball Earth in one go. You actually reified it sneakily in between your sentence.
Nathan, can you go to the slide in Master B, please?
I can. I've got to be honest, I was waiting for that conversation to be concluded by John, but he hasn't piped up.
When you mean he reified it just like I did?
I was a lot more
No,
subtle.
but that's correct.
Nathan said
it's not correct.
We don't see any Coriolis deviation on ball Earth. That's what he said, but he said it really quickly, and then, of course, he corrected that position, but you did say that.
Look, I'm the host. You're not allowed to undermine my my far more subtle way of dropping that in. Anyway, we've got your
I knew it.
Yes. Do we have it up on the screen?
Yes.
All right. So here's their claim. A rocket's path on a stationary Earth, the left picture, there is no Coriolis effect. A stationary sphere, let's put it this way, in this picture with the dotted line. But if the Earth is spinning west to east, as you can see to the picture to the right, you can launch it towards your target, but because the Earth is spinning west to east, you're going to miss your target because the Earth moved away. Figure 910, Coriolis deflection would cause a rocket launch from the North Pole directly at Mount Kilimanjaro, marked by the X, to land west of its target because Earth rotates. The reason I bring this up is because if this was true, if this was actually happening, if the Earth was spinning west-east, then flight times would be shortened from flights coming east to west, because in the same sense that they're saying the Earth is spinning faster than the rocket's ability to land where it's aimed, and it's going to land somewhere else, then that means that Charlotte flight's going to take an hour and a half because LA's coming towards it. They have no...
Yeah, it's a contradiction, man. They contradict themselves.
Man, you blew my ears out there.
Right, but what 10th Man's showing is that the globe Earth claim is Coriolis deflection. The effect that would be induced is the deflection caused by you rotating beneath something. So, as you observe this rocket travel from the ground, it seems to be taking a curved path, right? It's aiming for the X. So it's aiming for here, right? Well, if it just travels in a straight line, what you see from that point moving across as it travels down, you see it taking a curved path. Well, that's the Coriolis deflection. It's actually travelling straight, but you see it seem to curve. Why? Because the ground has rotated beneath it. And it says amount of deflection, that's Coriolis deflection, due to Earth's rotation. That's Earth rotating beneath the rocket, according to the globe Earth claim. That means Earth's rotating beneath rockets and aeroplanes and bullets and footballs and gyros. Yeah, well, we'd notice, because the flights would be shortened, because Earth would be turning underneath them, assisting their flight times when travelling west. Simply does not happen. Like I say, we'd notice. On the equator, you'd have 1,000 miles an hour spin of the Earth if you jumped up and down. Believe me, you'd notice.
But that's what I'm saying. They can't have it one way and not the other. You would have to see it in flight times.
Yeah. To see a deflection at all, to have Coriolis deflection, you must be rotating beneath things not attached. So for us to have globe Earth Coriolis effect, that's the claim, we have Coriolis effect, so the claim is Earth turning beneath stuff not attached. So we're turning beneath aeroplanes then. Yeah, if we're turning beneath them, that's shortening their flight times. Doesn't happen. Enter a horde of flat earthers to tell us why we don't have Coriolis effect. Why we wouldn't expect to see drift at 15 degrees an hour. How Earth and atmosphere move as one to not induce any drift. So they come along and tell us why there isn't any of this deflection? Well, globe Earth claims there will be it. They claim there's Coriolis effect. That's deflection at 15 degrees an hour as Earth turns beneath stuff. It's just we don't see it happen, do we? And the people who oppose us don't even believe it either. Where's John telling us that we need R for all of this?
Are you going to need R for that?
Any evidence of the R value?
Can I just say, though, the funniest part of that is that they'll continuously point at things that we don't see and diagrams and all this crap and call that the Coriolis effect, right? But then, the deviation we actually see, right, according to them, based on the same cause of rotating underneath, would be the stars, the sun, right? But for some reason, they go out of their way to not label that as Coriolis effect, even though it's the same cause. It's the same thing.
It's the same effect, yeah. If they're claiming that Earth turns beneath an inertial reference frame to cause deflection at 15 degrees an hour, that's star rotation according to them. And at a base level, when you're young, that's what they'll teach you. Just not at any higher level, because they don't want you to comprehend it beyond when you're goo-goo-gaggering your way through your general understanding of what the world that presents itself to you based on an authority just telling you. And they tell you, yeah, we're turning underneath those lights. That's why they look like they're moving. They're not really moving. It's us moving beneath them at 15 degrees an hour to see them look like they're curving when they're not really curving. That's Coriolis effect. Yeah, they'll go out of their way to separate the two. Because then when you link the two together, you say, so Coriolis effect is Earth explicitly described as turning beneath the stars, but kind of wheezily described in terms of the net effect when you've got Earth turning as a non-inertial reference frame and the ball being deflected at a 1/4 inch to the right, aided by Earth's rotation. That doesn't make you suddenly go, so Earth rotated under the football then? Neil deGrasse Tyson phrases it in a very carefully, weaselly worded way so that you don't automatically just associate the claim that Earth turns under the stars to make them seem to drift, when they're not actually moving from your vantage point, just you turning beneath them. Yeah, well, that's Coriolis effect, and Neil deGrasse Tyson's ball drifting through the goalposts is the same effect, Earth turning underneath the ball, not attached to the turning reference frame that's being claimed Earth is. Yeah, so Earth's turning under the blimp filming the game then. So the blimp's drifting away at about 800 miles an hour, is it? No. But that's what you're claiming. Earth's turning beneath stuff. That's what Coriolis is. It's the only way to have Coriolis. To be Coriolis, you must be turning beneath stuff. And as I say, and we'll repeat, that's what the globe claims. Not, Earth and atmosphere move together. There won't be any drifter, see? Because we have a first law of thermodynamics violation. Bonded gas, not unbonded. Yeah, that's nonsense from idiots who believe they've got the Western world behind them, while they spew this nonsense I'm now spewing on their behalf. Yeah, that doesn't line up with the globe claim. It just claims Coriolis effect. It doesn't happen.
Nathan, I got a second slide that will embarrass the anti-flat earthers.
Can you have Coriolis effect without a non-inertial turning reference frame?
No, in order to be and observe Coriolis effect, you must have a non-inertial turning reference frame underneath an inertial reference frame. Ergo, for Earth to have its claimed Coriolis deflection, because it's claimed to be turning beneath stuff, we must be turning beneath stuff, as per the globe claim that doesn't happen and can't be observed, and we debunk daily.
Well, can you have a non-inertial turning reference frame without a radial value?
No. In order to be a non-inertial turning reference frame, you'll be turning at a rate that's dependent on your radial value. If you haven't got one, you can't even make the claim.
Oh dear.
Go on, I've got your second slide up 10th. It's essentially detailing the same thing, deflection.
Yeah, I just want to drive the point home. So if you read one on top there to the left, rocket is launched from the North Pole toward New York along 74° west longitude. 2, bottom left, notice the direction of the Earth's rotation. 3, top right, as the rocket travels to New York, Earth's rotation causes the rocket to head west of its intended flight path. 4, similarly, a rocket launched from the South Pole toward New York would head west of its intended flight path. Now, we just went through this, but look to the very left of 1. Viewed from the North Pole, the Coriolis effect appears to deflect ocean currents and winds to the right. From the South Pole, the deflection appears to the left. They'll do anything to obfuscate what winds do on a flat plane.
It's total doublespeak.
Because
the Coriolis effect appears. So it's apparent. Right, but they're describing what winds actually do. So unless they're talking in Kosho terms, which is probably why Kosho made this assertion, that there's an apparent deflection in the winds. Well, that would mean the winds are travelling straight, and they only look like they're curving because you're turning beneath them. That's what this is saying.
Yes. So now, but now,
really quite disturbing, isn't it? Because you feel the wind, you feel the direction it's coming from, but it looks like it's coming from somewhere else. That is total doublespeak.
Totally preposterous.
Taking a visual, I don't know, I mean, it's just naughty, isn't it?
Yeah, that's describing an apparent effect, i.e. not actually happening, but appears to happen because you turn beneath. That's what Coriolis effect is. So it appears to happen because we turn beneath. What's happening? Well, the wind. Yeah, that's not appearing to curve. You know, if you've got a cyclonic action in the wind, it's actually curving. It's not just looking like it when it travels straight.
Did you say beneath?
Yes.
Are what do they call that again? Oh, satellites. Are those beneath or above the hurricanes in the inertial reference frame? Because those definitely appear to be rotating.
Yeah, they would be observing
So-
it from the inertial reference frame. What Chocolate's saying is, if you've got a satellite image claimed to be satellite, it doesn't matter what it is, but that's the claim, that's the image we're talking about. And you've got a picture of a whirly-whirl wind going in a circle, right? Well, the actual path is observable from the same reference frame the satellite image is taken from. That would be the inertial reference frame. So, by comparison, in a ball tossed over the top of a roundabout, the people tossing the ball back and forth across the top of the roundabout, they're effectively the same in the inertial reference frame. And what they see in the ball is it travelling straight. Yeah, doesn't matter that the Coriolis effect is going to be described from the roundabout and the effect's going to be the guy in the roundabout looking like it curves beneath. So he's looking at the ball and going, oh, look at that curved path it takes. Yeah, the inertial reference frame shows the actual path of the ball. And likewise, the satellite image shows the actual path of the wind. And it's got an actual curved path. Well, Coriolis effect is the appearing to curve of the ball from the roundabout, or the appearing to curve of the wind from the ground. Yeah, total nonsense.
Again, I want to point out that the east-west component they have to cleverly ignore, because they, in point 2, says notice the direction of Earth's rotation. So they're stating that their globe model. Now, I like John's argument. You're going to need a radial value, would kill it right there. But if you were to give them a little rope to hang themselves with, you'll say, well, what direction is the Earth rotating? West to east. Okay, what's that component going to do? You got me a north-south, south-north wind effect. How about an airplane in their initial reference frame not attached to the Earth going west, and Earth is rotating west to east? Shouldn't that flight from Charlotte be an hour and a half?
Yeah.
Oh, let's not talk about that.
Well, no, that's the net effect, though, isn't it? For me to look up at the plane and have what the globe claims to have, that's Coriolis effect, then I've got to be rotating under the plane. It's as simple as that. That's what the globe's claiming. The globe claims I rotate underneath aeroplanes. Why? Well, because it claims we've got Coriolis effect to observe. Like we see in the stars, the 15 degrees an hour drift. Well, that's a claim that Earth's turning underneath aeroplanes. What do you think the end result of that's going to be if it was true? Shortened flight times that we don't experience. So the claim fails. The claim is we turn beneath stuff to cause Coriolis effect.
And if you really don't get it, you do something silly like show up here like Planet Walk did and try to tell us how flights from the West Coast to the East Coast are actually shorter. Snatching his own wig off in essence.
Yeah, that's just being an idiot, not understanding your own claim.
Can I share
like
that
in that instance, right? Just to labour that point the Chocolate's just made. So that's a claimant that's come along and described the shortening of flight time, but in the wrong direction, right? Because he's looked at some flight times, seen the one slightly shorter, and gone, hey, proof. It's like that's going in the wrong direction. So you don't understand your own claim. Now, I don't know how many people on the panel immediately started berating him and laughing at him for it. Flat earthers, that is. Well, this is an instance where, fairly typically, we not only know their claim so well that when they make a slight error in terms of their, not even a slight error to us, it's a glaring error, but to the uninitiated, it's not even an error, they wouldn't even notice, right? But we know their arguments so well that we can go, what? From where to where? Hello? Yeah, that's not travelling west. Why are you describing the shortened flight time going east? You complete bonehead. Don't you understand what the globe claims? Because we do. They don't most of the time. They'll go and have a cursory search for what they're looking for, cherry pick out some evidence, not realising that it's completely contradictory to their own claim. Like I say, we'll spot it in a heartbeat. Chocolate spots it all the time. but that just it should demonstrate to the people watching who actually understands the globe claim. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, Adam, if you want to share that, feel free to do it.
Cool. It just exemplifies the point you've made today that this is their claim, and yet we don't see it in planes. But as you'll see here, Nathan, I'll wait till you've got it.
They don't understand their own claim.
Hold on 1 second, Adam. Not Adam, Arwin. Yes, I've got it presented. I might make it a bit bigger. Go ahead.
So it's just to exemplify the point. This is another thing. This is talking again missiles at 10th. I won't go into maybe another show. Go into some of the reasons why they're trying to create reference frames, because they are trying to claim tangential velocities in this, but fundamentally, and it's very novel, some of the stuff they go into, but fundamentally what they are creating is the Earth turning underneath. And if you look at this, well, the first picture just shows you it's similar, it's more complicated and less clear than what 10's shown you before. If you look at this second picture, 7.3a, it shows you what the effects are. And if you look at a plane traveling from 1 to 2, and a plane traveling from 3 to 4, it's a lot shorter. And this is the point. So with a missile, they make the positive claim that the Earth is turning underneath, and it will have an effect on flight times. This is, let's say, from, I'm not sure which book it is, 10th, one of the military books, Fire Control Technician.
I'll post
Volume 1.
And this shouldn't be a shock. The globe claims Coriolis. Everyone knows that because the word itself, most people are familiar with. It's a nice, complicated, seemingly intelligent word to use when describing an effect that the globe claims. So you sound smart when you say it. Coriolis effect. Yeah, the globe has Coriolis effect. Most people think it's actually like mutually inclusive with the globe. In other words, it's only globe effect. It's not like a general effect that you could induce on a roundabout. They think it's exclusively a globe effect. That's the word. Exclusively a globe effect. And it isn't. But most people know when you say Coriolis effect, instantly they think of globe spinning. Yeah? They don't know why. Because I've just heard somebody sometime describe how Coriolis effect is applicable to a turning Earth, and it's a proof of it. That's what they understand. Okay, great. So everyone's all on the same page. Everyone knows this word. That's the biggest battle, in my opinion. You know, the Globers wouldn't have had such a...
They don't understand, you know. They
hold on, Arwin. Hold on.
Just want to think that it's actually...
Hold on. They wouldn't have had such an uphill battle if the general Western world didn't know this word, Coriolis. But because they do, it's a much easier task now. It's been diced over the last 4 years, and the convoluted double-screwed nonsense that we have to deal with has been dealt with. Now, let's boil it down to brass tacks. There's an effect everybody's familiar with, Coriolis. The globes claim to have it. What is it? It's you turning beneath stuff that's not attached to the ground. That's what the claim is. So the claim is when turning beneath stuff not attached to the ground. Yeah? That's it. All you've got to do is get them to actually acknowledge what that effect the globes claim to have, Coriolis, that they definitely won't go, no. Coriolis, what's that? Never heard of it. Yeah, Coriolis is you turning beneath stuff. So we're turning beneath aeroplanes, according to the globe. That's it. It's the end of the argument. Much more concise. I just want to get that out, and I want to make it 10, maybe 15 times reiterated in this show. Sorry, Arwin. Go ahead.
But I was just going to say, well, more of the same. They don't really realize what Coriolis effect is. So the first thing that they've associated with before they actually learn about the Coriolis effect is that it has to do something with the Earth spinning. And then there's this entire reified stuff out there on Google and on Wikipedia about globiolus, the actual deviation. And that's how the entire concept of Coriolis deviation, which is an apparent deviation, not an actual, is completely snowed under and never reached. You have to specifically dig for it to get it. Because if you're just going to Google it, you're going to get a bit of Coriolis effect and then a giant amount of globiolus nonsense on top of that. If nobody's going to point that out to you, that they're not compatible, then how will you ever know?
Right, and we're here to do that by simplifying the claim right down to its bare bones assertion. The globe claims to be turning underneath stuff not attached. That's what Coriolis is. That's what it's claiming. That means we're turning underneath stuff not attached, because that's what the claim is, and that's what's supposed to be happening, and it's absurd because it doesn't happen.
Can I complicate it just a little? Like I said, this has subtle nuances, but I just want to describe one of the effects. And now this is within the apologetics of a plane taking off at 700 miles an hour backwards. Okay, so if we accept this retention of tangential speed or whatever, and that this always happens, that's the apologetics you've got to do. So if I just read this, but think about a drone taking off, Nathan, and we say it just hovers. Okay, so if a missile is launched directly upward from a point on the equator, it would move up and to the east, reach a zenith and fall back to the earth, but it would land to the west of the launch point. The reason it falls to the west of the launch point is that in order to move east at the same rate as the launch point moves due to the Earth's rotation, the missile would have to have increased its eastward component of its velocity, i.e. first law of thermodynamics. Yeah, it's not prepared to violate that. It would have to increase the eastward component of its velocity because it's further from the Earth's center of rotation as it rises. Yeah. So this is where they're trying to create a second reference frame. But listen, if a drone takes off and hovers, it shouldn't be hovering, should it? It should be drifting in this claim.
Yeah. Careful. Easy now. Should be. No.
In this claim, I said.
Yeah. If we are to see Coriolis, and the globe claims we will, then the drone will lift off the ground and on the equator drift away at 1,000 miles an hour for you to see it seem to curve away at 1,000 miles an hour. Now, in reality, if this claim is true, then you only push the up stick, but the drone whizzes away as it curves up and away at 1,000 miles an hour. Do drones, when you push the up stick, whiz away at a seemingly curved path of 1,000 miles an hour, Adam?
No.
Negative.
No, to see Coriolis effect, as the globe claims we have, then it's claimed that we turn underneath that drone at 1,000 miles an hour edge velocity to see it seem to curve away. Because that's the claim, that we're turning under the drone to see it curving, when it's really just going up. But from your vantage point, wow, it's curving away at 1,000 miles an hour because I'm turning underneath it. That's what Coriolis is. It just doesn't happen.
No, totally agree. Like I said, this is a nuance I've never heard before. You've seen their Globiolis claim, but this isn't. If John's here, he might like this because it requires R. So you are on the ground at sea level, 83,959. But as you go higher, then the differential of the tangential speed to the ground speed that you've got increases. So the higher you go, the more you experience this perverted attempt at Coriolis, this differential of tangential speeds. The higher you go, the more you'll curve in this claim.
Yeah, super rotation.
Yeah.
Yep. The bottom line is,
Yeah.
I'll say it one more time, globe Earth claims Coriolis, and that means the claim of us turning beneath stuff not attached. Absurd and doesn't happen. Go ahead, Chocolate. Not heard anything from Sleeping Warrior. Been in the whole
Well,
time.
I'd like to share something about the image on top there. If you go back to that image,
What, from Adam?
yeah, on that page, the one that I put up, it's a master B as well.
Okay,
So you can
yeah,
go-
I've got it up. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so you see that image there. Notice how it's Earth's equatorial plane coming from the center. And then they're using that as a part of this description of theirs. But L1 is initial launch point, as you see there. But by the time the Earth turns and the missile lands, L1 is now L2 final launch point because it's attached to the Earth, and that's why the missile lands west. Now think of that. Is that ever seen? Is that ever proven?
No, it's
Wait,
short on
so
flight
is
times.
it the case that so what do they say that like aircrafts use the air that's attached to the Earth, but rockets don't, missiles don't? Like, are there different air that like? Are you
There's
serious?
that empathy getting the better of you again. No, it's just claiming Earth turns underneath rockets. That's, you know, you're trying to superimpose what the anti-flat earther might suggest when that would affect flight times and shorten them. That they're suggesting that Earth does turn under rockets but doesn't turn under aeroplanes, but does turn under bullets and footballs, but not under the aeroplanes or the drones.
Yeah.
It does turn under gyros and pendulums, but doesn't turn under hot air balloons. You know, yeah, that's their
well,
problem.
chocolate.
That was the convoluted point I was trying to back up with Tenfa. I went off sideways, but that is, and that's the point of this diagram. Look, they're demonstrating how the Earth turns, the effect of the Earth turning underneath will affect the flight of a rocket. Why doesn't it affect planes then?
Well, this is my point. And if you superimpose LA as L1, LA's moving towards Charlotte, and L2 is still LA because it's on the Earth and it's moving towards the plane coming east to west. I mean, this is killer.
And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the PayPal and thanks button, all that good stuff. Finally made my way through the support buttons on the outro, so brilliant stuff. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
On it.
Dum 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 dum.
Go to see Jump Panda.
I do the same thing.
The fact remains is that if the Earth was a spinning ball, there would be Coriolis deviation, actual Coriolis deviation. The Globers don't know what Coriolis effect is. They're just distracted by Globiolis, actual deviations, claimed to be a consequent of the spinning ball Earth, which is false.
Right, but you had to have spinning ball Earth, you know, like that's the assumption that goes in prior to discussing Coriolis effect.
Yeah, we
So
gotta
without that-
we gotta dip a toe into Narnia to even talk about it. I get it, man. I get what you mean.
And I'm fine with you guys talking about it. I just like to point out that there's no real need to know any of that stuff.
Yeah, it's got to be a ball first before it's a ball that's spinning. That's obvious.
Well, the spinning part requires an R value too, so you got to beg the question twice before you can even start discussing Coriolis. Because it's got to be a ball, and it's got to be ball spinning, and then you can talk about the effects you would see if those two things were true.
Yeah, that's why I think there's an opening. While it's a temptation to say, God, this is a horrible argument, it's so convoluted, and there's so much disinformation that confuses our opponents that we end up having to train them in what they should be claiming to then defeat it. It's like, I think John's right. When you simplify it down even further, you've got to beg the question twice. You've got to assume Ra, and you've got to assume non-inertial spinning reference frame. then you've got to take that claim and superimpose the effect of stuff drifting at 15 degrees an hour as that non-inertial turning reference frame, aka Coriolis, takes effect. And then explain to a flat earther why we don't see the presupposed effect of a non-inertial turning reference frame based on an R value you've assumed, giving you the effect the globe claims, which is Coriolis drift at 15 degrees an hour. So they explain why we don't have the effect assumed to be induced when you assume an R and assume a non-inertial turning reference frame. And then you end up with comments like you and your reference frames are ruined, aimed at a flat earther. It's like, okay, let's just take a step back. Globe claims Coriolis effect. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's just digging into begging the question incorrectly can leave you in a bad spot. And it's left them in a bad spot.
Very much so. I agree. But I didn't recognise how bad a spot it was in because of the battle that was going on. Sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees. You just see a huge, messy, ugly battle and go, ooh, oh, I don't know about that. Right? But somehow I ended up in the thick of it. I don't know how that happened. But then at the end, when you battle your way through the kerfuffle, you get to the other side and you go, hang on a second. It's just a mosh pit. There's nothing surrounding the mosh pit. In fact, there's quite clear day and tranquility beyond the mosh pit. Wow, check this out. Yeah, the globe claimed all this was spinning and we were turning beneath stuff in the sky, didn't it? Yeah. Oi, mosh pit. So none of you in the mosh pit believe that we're turning beneath that plane then? They go, what? We're fighting down here about how we don't see the effect and you shouldn't be expecting to see it. So you don't expect to see us turning beneath stuff then, the Coriolis effect that the globe claims then. Wow. So we've been fighting for so long, we didn't even realise that you don't believe it either. Wow, mad, isn't it? This has been a crazy fight. But we win. Earth not turning. We're not turning beneath stuff. You all just spent 2, 3, 4 years in the mosh pit telling us how we wouldn't expect to see it. So we're definitely not seeing it then, this Coriolis effect the globe claimed. Cool, we're all square. We win. No Coriolis effect. Earth not spinning.
Yeah, it's like they want to agree that the effect doesn't exist, but they want to keep the non-inertial turning reference frame and the sphere both.
Yeah, we won't see the effect induced and utilised by the claim of being a non-inertial turning reference frame. We won't see that effect, and here's why. We won't see the effect, but while I simultaneously still assume we're spinning... Do you see how I'm still assuming we're spinning while I explain we won't see the Coriolis effect? But still assuming I'm spinning, you see, so I'm still spinning. We're all cool, right? No, the globe claims we have Coriolis effect. The fact that you, on your own, away from the heliocentric Western world religion and viewpoint and belief that you're spinning because the example of Coriolis effect is perceivable, that would be you seeing stuff drift because you turn beneath stuff. You don't believe it either. Right? It's very interesting that you spent a long time telling me how you don't believe in Coriolis effect. You don't believe we're turning beneath stuff. But neither do we. So we're all cool. Should we shake hands and move on with our day, knowing that we're definitely not turning beneath stuff, as we both agree on that? No effect to observe. Just your assumption that doesn't align itself with the assumption that we were a turning reference frame, turning beneath stuff, to have Coriolis effect. Nobody here believes that, do they? Literally nobody in this debate believes that. Nobody.
Anybody in Discord believe that?
No, I absolutely guarantee you there's nobody here that believes the Earth has Coriolis effect. Because Coriolis effect is Earth turning beneath stuff. Like aeroplanes shortening their flight times.
There's got to be a diehard glober, like a fan of the blue marble, right? That will stand behind the claims of the globe. Come on, there's got to be one. Tell us all about how the Earth is turning beneath stuff, man. I mean, that's life right there, right?
That's the claim. The globe claims Coriolis effect. There will be nobody stepping forward to say, yeah, Earth has Coriolis effect. We see stuff drifting because we're turning beneath it. we're turning beneath that there aeroplane, shortening its flight, and that's never going to happen. They don't believe it either. They've spent the last God knows how many years telling me why we don't see drift. So they don't believe it either, Chocolate. None of them do.
Actually, they don't like when you say spinning underneath. They don't like that at all.
So they must not like when their own globe claims that too, because they say the same shit.
Yeah, they hate the claim of Coriolis too, Neil. When I say their claim of Coriolis, they will turn around and tell me that my reference rate, they hate it so much, the globe claim of Earth turning beneath to cause Coriolis effect. Yeah, they hate it so much that they'll tell me my reference frames are ruined when I assert the globe claim. You know, they're like, you telling me that there's 2 reference frames and drift are ruined. Oh, really? So me and Dan are, much more alike than I maybe he cares to admit and I have ever thought about before. Neither of us believe in Earth turning beneath stuff to cause Coriolis effect. I mean, he's going out of his way to give me the flat earther examples of stuff not drifting. Cool, huh? Dan's giving us examples of stuff not drifting at 15 degrees an hour because Earth turns beneath it, as the globe claims, to give us Coriolis. Cool, huh?
Funny how they hate that. They also hate when you say boats falling over the edge. I mean, they hate all the proofs that Earth is a sphere. Wow.
Yeah, that's why they need to be segregated into a little tiny corner of the internet and initially love-bombed with lots of popularity and their anti-flat earth stuff going out to lots and lots of new people so that are nice and committed to their little hell that they'll spend the rest of their lives on YouTube in. Now, flat earthers have gone through the same mix and some of them have come out the other side, like me, smiling, going, life's pretty sweet. Very much an optimist. And scraping by on YouTube. But for the majority, most people went through the mill, came out the other side and went on to other things. Now, there's going to be the same occur for anti-flat earthers, because they're dangerous. You know, these boneheads going around describing how stuff's not drifting, showing examples of stuff not having Coriolis deflection. You know, there's Neil deGrasse Tyson. They're spending a lot of money on PR, getting him in front of the pretty interviewers to tell him about the deflection of the ball. That's Coriolis effect. So these numpties like Dan showing things not drifting, they don't need to be anywhere near the real general public. Just the overly curious also probably maybe need to be separated from the rest of the population also. They're curious and looking into this stuff. They'll find Simon Dan. They won't know that they've found their way to hell. You know, the way to heaven, the gate got closed when YouTube sat in front of Congress, let's be honest, for the normies that were curious in this example.
Nathan, can we have a little laugh? If you go to Master B, I got an image there. It's called Coriolis Effect as the title.
Okay, just give me 20 seconds to proportion it because it's long and thin.
You can go to the second image, which is the whole thing, but I just wanted
just give me a sec. Just give me a sec.
Coriolis Effect.
I'm all over this one.
You will never see.
Okay, I've got it up. It fits. People can read it.
Okay, because of the Earth's rotation, there it is. That's the cause. Any object moving across it in the northern hemisphere appears to be subjected to a drift to the right. This is called the Coriolis effect and arises from the motion of air with respect to ground. To the right, you see this image, and it says, if a missile were fired at New York from a launching site at the North Pole, it would land in an Illinois cornfield. Now, when you look at this picture and what they're trying to say, the missile's taking a straight path. So the picture's not entirely true. I'd like to get your opinion on this. What happens is where you see New York, Chicago ends up there, but they got it showing this way. Meaning the Earth moves Chicago where the intended target was supposed to be New York. So New York should be right of New York at this point, if you follow what I'm saying.
No, that's correct. If the Earth had the effect, that's accurately described. So if you imagine that you are the observer and it can only be described from that vantage point. So although it's slightly tricky wording, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say they are describing it accurately as it can only be described from the non-inertial turning reference frame. But now I will superimpose an actual location for your observation. So we're going to say that the target's New York. Well, you're sat in New York with a clear line of sight of the missile. And you look at it and you go, oh, check it out. I can see the launch. It's coming straight for me. And you watch it for a prolonged period on your deck chair and go, wow, check it out. It looks like it's curving off to the right. Is it right? It doesn't matter. It's curving. Check it out. It's curving
right.
away from us, lads. It's not going to hit us. Yeah, there's something wrong with the engines because it's taking a curved path away from us. Look, I can see it curving away. Well, that's not a problem with the engines. That's a not actual curved path that you would observe from the ground as it's claimed you on a turning Earth are turning beneath the straight path of the missile. Seeing a seeming curved path, but in reality, the missile's been sent, been pointed at New York, and sent in a straight line towards it. And unfortunately for this claim, it's Earth turning beneath it so it doesn't hit New York. And that is describable from the non-inertial turning reference frame by you, the observer, in New York, seeing it seem to curve away from you. If it happened, that means that Earth's turning underneath missiles and aeroplanes and hot air balloons and drones and you if you jump up and down and pendulums and gyro compasses and fibre optic compasses.
Yeah, if you're doing it from the North Pole, it's to the right. If you're viewing it from New York, the deflection is to the left. But my point is another point, which is what we're trying to get them to agree to, which they won't, is that the missile is shot in the straight path and is going to keep that straight path. And the Earth, with Chicago on it, moves where New York is, and New York is more east of where it currently is. They don't want to admit that because that would involve shortened flight times.
Right. Bringing the target towards you if it's west of your location. In this case, there's a very minute shortened path because the straight path is shorter than the long one. And if you aimed off target to get it to hit, it would hit with a shortened duration because the target's slightly come towards you, even by this depiction. Well, while in the north-south direction, you're not going to have a massively reduced flight times, but you are going to have a massive issue as the Earth's still turning beneath your trajectory. Now, compensating for that is minor if you're going to describe it in a north-south or south-north direction. But the problem that they want to ignore and describe in their citations as, well, there's zero Coriolis on the equator. You know, if you're travelling west, there's nothing's going to happen. Like, what, other than Earth turning beneath you? Yeah, that's going to shorten the flight times massively. But that doesn't happen so suddenly there's zero on the equator, according to this stupid citation, double-speak nonsense. Yeah, that's a big problem for the globe, isn't it? Contradicts itself, lads, doesn't it? Yeah, maybe you should pick the latter and argue about why there isn't a drift, why there's no Coriolis. And then at the end of this scrap, we'll all shake hands and agree, as you've taken sides, that there's no Coriolis effect, as Earth's claimed to have. Yeah, we're all in agreement. Simon Dan's on our side. That's why he's dangerous. That's why he's going to get segregated with all the other Muppets that thought that they were sitting in line with the mainstream narrative with the Western world behind them. Wrong. Yeah, I thought that too when I got to Flat Earth. Yeah, the whole world are behind me. Yeah, they'll all find out. They've been lied to. No, we were segregated into this dark little corner of the internet. I realised that almost immediately. Yeah, but you Muppets over on the anti-Flat Earth side, you think you're righteous and that the world's behind you. Oh dear. No, you're just as dangerous as we were back in 2015. Because you don't believe it either, do you?
Well, this is why they convolute it by addressing it affects winds. When winds are actual wind movement because of high and low pressure over the stationary plane we live on. So the only way they get any traction, which goes against them, is to say, well, see how the winds drift. Well, what's the cause? Earth rotation? Good. Then why is it hitting the Illinois cornfield? The Illinois cornfield. Well, Earth's rotating. Well, perfect. Then let's look at it that way instead of just you using actual winds that move as your proof that Earth is turning, which it isn't.
Yesterday's and today's show have been really good from an educational standpoint. Yesterday's covering fallacies. I gotta admit, I don't normally go back and listen to a live show again, but I did, and it was good. And I feel the same way about today's show, like we've really rammed it full of good educational content.
Agreed.
I wish we'd have done more on fallacies, though. I really like fallacies, especially the interplay between them. Way they use them like 6 or 7 in the same sentence.
Yeah, we will. We'll definitely do more. I'd have done it today. I mean, the conversation did naturally develop anyway, as it normally does. But no, I'm more than keen to cover more fallacies. And as you said in the show yesterday, the interplay between them, because I did hint at it towards the end, the way they get layered up. And half the time, the people who are layering them up don't realise that the first thing they've done is actually committed a fallacy. In their mind, that's a proof. So they're not basing their presupposition, for example, on anything other than the proof that's unaffirming the consequent. They don't know they've presupposed their outcome when they affirm the consequent.
Can we do it on Coriolis now? The fallacies they use?
No. It'll take too long. I want to dedicate a show to it again. Yesterday we mainly focused on Earth curve, and then we went through affirming the consequent with begging the question, dropped in a little bit of stereotyping fallacy, and I think there was one other which I forget. But tomorrow we'll just do it on a different housekeeping question and get a different fallacy out of it.
I made an attempt. Sorry.
No, I was done.
I say yesterday was the one you said you forgot. I made an attempt at the Coriolis effect, saying that if we're on a spinning, if the stars are spinning because we're on a spinning non-inertial reference frame, then getting off that non-inertial reference frame should stop the stars from moving. But I didn't formulate it into any type of modus tollens or anything.
I did think about that. You need to flip it around the other way. So you start with the reference frame that's spinning as the assertion, as the P statement. So you can detach yourself from it in the not P statement. So if you are on a non-inertial spinning reference frame, then the stars will deflect at 15 degrees an hour. Yeah? Well, you can say not P, not Q. That would be your deflection is still occurring at 15 degrees an hour when you, not P, aren't standing on the non-inertial turning reference frame, i.e. detached from it. I was thinking about this in the shower. I didn't actually formulate it, but what I did consider was that the way that it's phrased so that you can leave the reference frame, I get off it with a drone, is to have that be the P statement. So you just flip them around. Again, without putting any polish on that either, but that was the way I figured you could get around it, so that you can have the thing that changes to make the statement true or false be the taking off of the non-inertial reference frame. Does that make sense? Detaching yourself from it, and that would mean that the statement that you're proving as if P would be if you are or aren't attached to the reference frame that's spinning or claimed to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, flip it around. I get it.
But you've already interjected the proto-fallacy at that point, giving a radial value.
Yeah, you have, yeah.
Yes,
that's correct. You're already into assuming R and assuming that Earth's got a non-inertial turning reference frame. So you're not into the second begging the question. You're into the proto-fallacy, as John's just pointed out. That's just beautiful. You're on fire at the moment, John. I love it every time you do it. So yes, you're already into using a flat Earth to get to a flat Earth model, celestial sphere model. That's flat Earth plane over a celestial or under a celestial sphere of your perspective view. To get to a sphere with an R value, based on the elevation angle measurements taken from a flat plane, to then affirm the consequent with the star rotation and a spinning Earth with an R value. So it's already employed the proto-fallacy. It's already used a flat Earth. I love it, John.
When is John not on fire?
It's just missing those things. I do it every day. This is why it's good to keep me grounded. That's why I smile so much when he does it. Because you get lost in the complexities of the argument. Because sometimes the argument can be quite beautiful. And you can go through these motions. And it needs someone to give you a good slap around the face like John and go, yeah, but they've already assumed a flat Earth, haven't they? You know, it's lovely that you know all these arguments so well, but really he subtly does it too. It's like, oh, you don't need any of that. He's subtly letting you guys let down. But I know what the score is here. And when I waffle off into La La Land with a what I call a beautiful description of an eloquent debunking of their initial claim with all of the prerequisites put into place from their behalf, and John comes along and goes, yeah, they've already measured and demonstrated Earth to be flat before they've done any of this. They've whistled past it. It's a proto-fallacy. I love it.
Yeah, it's a shame because John's on fire. He can never be introduced in the meeting as the extinguished gentleman.
Beautiful.
I addressed Ruhif's challenge of the elevation angles being taken and then using it to navigate. And I said, why would I try to triangulate my position from those angles when those angles prove my point? Like,
yeah, just measuring the angles proves a flat plane. You have to triangulate with them. I mean, they've got very useful functionality after you've proven Earth's flat with them. Yeah, but why would you do anything further than that? You don't need to go any further, do you? Right, so you've already measured Earth flat, so what's next? Who cares?
I particularly like John's comment at the end that he posted. He says, my response, so we're going to use flat Earth angle measurements within the celestial sphere model of a flat Earth to prove a sphere? ? Do whatever, but I won't be wasting my time arguing past the point of concession.
Sounds like he had the debate in comments to see how well he'd do. I used to see that from people like Wiggles. So I'd be in an after show, not now, but like a published after show in the chat. And there'd be someone like Wiggles or similar. And they'd debate their argument with me in the chat. No mute button there. Anyway, they're chatting away, debating their point. They get annihilated, go through the circle jerk motions over and over again with me laughing at them. And then the following day, they'd come on the show and go through the exact same motions that they'd gone through in chat with me and get annihilated on the exact same points. And then disseminate it into, descend it into fundy muting and chanting and circle jerking. But ultimately speaking, Ruhif has done the same thing. He's just gone through what will be, or would have been, the debate on paper before the debates happened, via email. And now we've come to the conclusion that we're going to be using a flat Earth to get the angles. So that's the point of concession. We're measuring a flat Earth to do any of this stuff that we're going to debate about. Yeah, John's won. Now,
He won't go there.
Come on and have the humility to actually do that verbally
morning.
when it's being arranged. This is supposed to be the arrangements. It's just supposed to be 8 o'clock. That's what it's supposed. That's what arrangements are, not the ins and outs of the debate that he'll lose. But that's what he's done. Will he actually have the debate now and lose for a public audience?
I think
No.
as far as that, what's going to be the decider of whether it's a ball or flat for them now is I got this response, John, this morning. Celestial navigation only works on a globe. Everyone on the panel thinks it only works on a flat Earth. Yet not a single one of you have ever done it. That's pretty embarrassing. Monkey with his hands on his ears. Hashtag got to lie to flirt, as they say.
My sister has owned several boats. Did Ruhif not get the memo? So while I might not have held the sextant, my sister and now deceased brother-in-law owned several boats. And I've been or bore witness to this occurrence. That would be triangulation by way of sextant and almanac and flat map. So I've been out at sea and seen this done. Now, no, I didn't go through the training to do it, but I've definitely been on a ship, if you like. No, it won't. It was a boat. But you know what I'm getting at. No, I've definitely bear witness to this being an occurrence. It was a shock to me when I started talking about it with my sister and she told me that I was there. I was like, what? She's like, on the boat on WYSIWYG, you were there when I did it with Dave? And I was like, oh yeah. So all these people going, you've never done it. Well, I mean, by extension, my sister has done it. I'm going to lie and say I actually did it. But no, I've been in the presence of somebody doing it on a boat. So, I mean, that's a crap. Number one, I just want to point that out, just to absolve anybody of thinking that that's in any way a reasonable rebuttal. When the functionality of it is what we're arguing about, not the process of somebody on the panel actually doing it. Because it doesn't matter.
Being in the presence of somebody doing it that actually knows what they're doing is close enough.
Nathan. No, it's totally irrelevant. Whether Nathan was there, was never there, it doesn't matter. The process is the important thing, not who's doing the process, what the process involves, what are the prerequisites for the process to work. This is the force of where their arguments retort to, yeah? It's gone down to the fact that the only thing they can cling on to. Owen, calm down. Yeah, the only thing they can cling on to, yeah, the only battle they can win now is to say, well, you've not done it. You've not done it. We're not going to do it, particularly now, because that's all. We actually did do the first one, Ruhif, just as a rebuttal. But these are silly little things.
I agree.
What would it prove if one of us did it? Nothing. The celestial navigation itself proves it for us.
We would prove that we can, while they are basically projecting onto us, oh, why don't you just do it? Because they can't. Because they have no grounds to make their claims about it only working on a globe, right? But the thing is, if we do it, like 10th Man, or like Nathan's being in the presence of a family member doing it, not even being necessarily aware about flat Earth or anything, right? Especially if they're not aware. It's like if you're being in the presence of somebody that has no preconception about what the Earth is, and they just use the discipline, the skill of navigation in your presence, that is amazing. That is like great testimony just to further back up everything that we do. Well, right? It's good for us. We don't need to do it for them. We do it for us.
It is if I give it context, which is to say that I was going through the debate of how celestial navigation is performed and how it requires a flat Earth in order to measure an elevation angle with a sextant. And as I was describing this to my now brother-in-law, my sister's new husband, I say new, they've been married for years. Anyway, he's arguing the toss about how it could be done on a sphere, just like these arseholes, our opponents, in this case, Ruhif. And he's saying, no, all of them are based on spheres. But I look across and my sister's nodding along with me every time I talk. I'm like, why are you sitting over there nodding along? And that's when I've already explained. She said, well, you were there when I was doing it on WYSIWYG on the boat. Not the other boat, the Lady Red or whatever. I never saw her do it on that, but that's not the point. But at a given time, I was there while it was being done. And she explained that back to me, and I had a flash of inspiration. Bloody hell, yeah, I was. I was more interested in various other things about the experience, but that's not the point. She was agreeing because she understood implicitly that Earth had to be flat to do that. And she agreed with every point I made. Now,
it's not who did it, it's what was being done. Isn't it? It's not who did it, when they did it.
I was just getting to that, Adam. That's where I was going. Yeah. So the point is that their rebuttal, which is you haven't done it. Well, I haven't measured the angles that require a flat Earth in order to triangulate my location. No, I haven't. You and anybody else cannot and will not be doing it on a sphere ever because it can't be done. Whether or not I did it when it requires a flat Earth to be done is irrelevant.
Right, so it's projection once again. No, you hold on.
Hold on.
It's projection once again, just to be clear.
Okay, you're right.
Well, just what I was going to say is he's using the celestial sphere model as if it's the globe model, because that's where he's doing his calculations, but that's a flat Earth model too. He's not getting that. He's refusing to see it.
Time to name that fallacy.
That's proto-fallacy.
The celestial sphere model assumes the Earth is stationary and the stars are moving. So it's a flat Earth model.
Well, Ruhif's argument seems to be if a flat Earther doesn't perform for him celestial navigation, then the Earth's a ball. That seems to be his argument.
Very weak.
So if that's the case, then none of them can ever claim anything about, I don't know, aircrafts if they don't fly, sniper rifles if they don't shoot. Like, is this really where they have to go?
Yeah, hold on, Chocolate.
No, it's just
hold
for
on,
us.
hold on.
It's just they're projecting it.
Hello?
It's just for us, not for them.
Hello? There's a standardised reply for Roofy in this regard, guys. It's already been worked out. Hello? Didn't you get the memo? Yeah. So if we can't do it, then it can't be done in Earth's a sphere. All right. So if we can't do it, I see. How's that geometric horizon working out for you, Roofy? Standardised reply, guys.
It's all projection. It's all they do. That's all the anti-flat earthers do. They're in a predicament. They can't go anywhere. Well, the only way out is to then project that predicament onto us and hope we'll get distracted enough by that to give them some breathing room.
No, it's just a personal attack. It levels the argument. And the reason I went through the explanation was to show that because I've got a positive outcome to give, it's a much better example. So I can top that example off by saying it makes no difference if I was the one holding the sextant. Because what I would be doing or what my sister was doing, the function being performed, regardless of who's performing it, is being done with a flat plane. That's the argument. They disseminate it into, you haven't done it, you've not owned a boat, you've not been out at sea holding a sextant. Well, me and what I have done as an individual won't change the argument that you require a flat earth to do this, and are using one when you use the celestial sphere model. That's a flat earth model.
Of course. But come on, my point still stands. That's their problem. It's their problem, and they try to project it onto us. Like, why don't you do it? Like, they can't do it, right? Because it is flat. It's not going to work. They don't even know mathematically how to do it.
You've said that three times, so I'll expand on it, because you obviously want to labour that point. Yes, indeed, they need to. They being anti-flat earthers. But this is why they, in the discussions earlier on the live show, are just as dangerous as us. For that very reason. They want us to do it. Yeah. They're stuffed into the same little corner so we can fight amongst them about things that aren't globe claims. Well, yeah, they don't want to admit it either, do they, Arwin? Is your point, right?
No, they can't even admit it. They so much can't admit it that they just switch it around in their head, and then they see us as being the perpetrator, not them. Pure projection.
Yeah, the globe fails. You and your reference frames are ruined. No, the globe has the reference frames that we don't see. That's not me, dude. Hello. But that's me climbing out the mosh pit and going, so, hello, we all agree, no drift. Hello? You're all, just jump out of the mosh pit. There's no point fighting anymore. None of us see that there's drift. You're arguing why we wouldn't see it whilst assuming we're turning. We're saying why we just don't see it. But we're both saying that we don't see Coriolis. So, okay, you can go off in that direction with your begging the question belief that it's still spinning with first law of thermodynamics violations to prove it to yourself, and I'll go away knowing it's not spinning. But neither of us are going to be in line with the belief that back over on the other side of the river, before the mosh pit started, like they all do up there, they all just think there's Coriolis effect, drift at 15 degrees, the one that you've been fighting with us that there isn't and why there isn't. So we're all going to get on with our day. But what you do need to realise is that there's a river that we crossed whilst fighting, and we are no longer on the other side with the normies who think there's Coriolis drift at 15 degrees. None of us are them, including Dan and Katz and Ruhif, and all of them. They're all on this side of the river with us. It's just we're happy about it and they're not.
Right, because we remind them of how their interpretations are sidestepping the actual globe Earth claims. So they're projecting onto us like we're the globers.
Yeah.
Why? Because we tell them exactly how the globe would work according to the official claims.
Right.
They don't want to accept it.
So they can fight against us on this side of the river, well away from the people still lying to the normies. So we become, like you say, through projection, the target. We're the ones ruining it because we're pointing out how the globe works. So they attack us. Well, that's much better than attacking the people who are still disseminating this shite that they don't agree with, like Coriolis effect. In fact, they are, aren't they? That's what we talked about in the live show. They're, quote-unquote, throwing them under the bus. Well, they can't be throwing them under the bus when there's real buses around on the other side of the river. They need to be doing that over here, well away from the general public. You know, if they're going to be throwing the priests under the bus, the heretics, well, that's the point, isn't it? Yeah, well, we're pointing out that they're heretics. That's just giving them another reason to fight us, rather than the real perpetrators of the lie. Because they are heretics. And obviously that's already been figured out, because they're already on a different side of the river with us. So while we're here now going, yeah, you're heretics. Yeah, we're slow. We are dumb flat earthers. You'd already been segregated before we figured it out.
Right. Well, the flat earthers walked away from the priesthood of the globe. They are rejected slaves, right?
Yep.
They want to be with the globe, but they have been rejected because they are not accepting the priesthood chanting.
Right, so they're too dangerous because they're now an aggressor, because they're going to want to fight against, potentially, their slave master. Well, you need to give them a quasi-slave master to fight against, and that's us.
Well, they're much safer on this side of the river with us, right? Because they would get stoned on the other side of the river, or like, thrown under the bus. Because that side of the river is dangerous. That side of the river actually adheres to the quote-unquote model, right? So over here, they're safe because their side won't throw the same stones at them, right? And then they can hide behind us as cover for the stones being thrown at them on this side of the river where it's nice and safe.
Just because it's safe doesn't make them feel safe. They long to be back on the other side and ignorant. They are Cypher wanting to eat that steak again in the Matrix, right?
Yeah. It's like the Fraser Crane example I gave yesterday. They want to be back in the spa, thinking about the platinum level, whilst having their feet and toes pampered. Well, that's where they want to be. But once you're outside, in your dressing gown, realising that it's cold and windy, that's where you've already realised that there's nothing behind the golden door at the top level. Right? In other words, it was all a sham. Well, that they've come through the same door as we have. But when we got to the top, we were like, well, I'm glad to be, away from all those stupid pills and potions all over my feet. Oh, nice, beautiful. Look at the sun. Isn't it beautiful out here? Fresh air, thank God. That's the attitude we get when we get through that door. But we've been funneled through that door, let's be honest. But they're getting funneled through the same door. It's just when they get through the other side and the door closes, they're banging on the door. Or they've all set up a different pretend quasi-fake spa on the roof with all the trash, and going, yeah, we're still really inside. We are really globe believers. It's like, no. You've set up like a mock pretend. You've put globe belief above the door, your new sort of cobbled together door, but none of you really actually have any pills and potions, by metaphor, to put on people's feet. Because you don't believe in the globe. None of you do. You're talking about stuff that isn't a globe belief.
They're like lovers that couldn't get over the breakup.
They want
jilted.
to...
Yeah, jilted and dangerous. And need segregation. Just like we did.
They want to cherry pick because, as John says, and as we've shown all the citations, they assume the Earth is stationary and it's the stars that are moving in order to do celestial navigation. How come they never show us those quotations? But they say, well, unless you do it, you can't talk about it. Well, you don't have to do something to talk about it. I mean, I've aimed my sextant at the sun and brought it down to the horizon and got an angle. So that angle could only work on a flat surface, from a flat surface, not a curved baseline. Now, they're also saying that the measurement's coming from the equatorial plane, which is a flat disk, because there you can get an angle. So by saying that, the stars must be moving and that equatorial plane must be stationary. That's why the celestial sphere model says you have to assume the Earth is stationary and that the stars are moving, because you're using the center of the Earth, the equatorial plane, as the origin of your angle. But we know the sextant's not being used at the center of any Earth. It's on the surface, which is the real Earth disk, so to speak, the plane, because you can't get an angle from a curved baseline. So they lose right away.
Is that why the same clown was sitting there saying, oh, you guys don't actually do this thing? He says when Globers are speaking about elevation angles, they're not talking about the surface? That guy?
Well, all of their angles that they get are in the books predetermined from a flat plane that they say is the equatorial plane. Now, basically, it's the surface that's flat, and that's why it works. But they're saying that surface is at the equatorial plane when you cut the Earth in half. This is a joke. This is like crazy stuff.
They either have to contradict the celestial sphere model, or they have to assert that you can get an angle from a curved baseline. That's the conundrum they're in.
Yeah, but either way, their argument then isn't with us, it's with celestial navigation. That's what they're now denying.
That's what I've been saying.
Yeah, that's the perfect point to round out the after show on. So with that, I'm going to say another massive, huge, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Primary streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the PayPal and thanks buttons, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.